Hello guys, welcome to another review on the channel. This time it will be for one of the biggest hits of 2023, Hogwarts Legacy. I clocked in my playthrough at around 75 hours. I 100% the entire game, got every achievement and completed every single open world activity there was to do. So I think I have a wide and broad view on every system and content in the game. I do have to say from the get-go that I thoroughly enjoyed this game, and I am happy it's getting the praise that it's due, but I'm also afraid it's not all roses and sunshine. It has some problems that are derived from the usual bloat on AAA open world games, and we'll speak in detail on those. But I also wanted to give an early warning for those that won't watch the entire video. There may be some issues underneath the greatness here that might change a buy decision into a wait for a buy for some people, depending on their degree of tolerance. Let's go over the different sections and see how Hogwarts Legacy did across the board, shall we? This is a very strong section for Hogwarts Legacy on the NPCs and characters. I like what they did with the story and most of the characters that follow you through your journey. Dialogue is not cheesy at all, and there are plenty of references to the old movies and the Wizarding World IP as a whole. This is fantastic and nostalgic for fans of the books and movies like me. I will highlight to you your three different companions from the Hufflepuff, Gryffindor and Slytherin houses. Their storylines and overall quests are beautifully designed and evoke feelings on you. They pick real themes and struggles from the world you are in and develop on them. Let's take your Slytherin companion, Sebastian Sallow, and his quest to cure his sister from a curse, which is one of my favorite quests, as you see that someone so desperate for hope that he falls onto misery and darkness, even resorting to the unforgivable curses, aka the torture or mind control or death spells that no wizard should use. It's not only Sebastian, it's really not. You meet Nat Sionai and Poppy Sweeting, your other companions, and their stories are equally impressive, touching on topics such as rare beasts and poachers, or the ability to transfigurate into an animal and going after a dark wizard. I love the fact that Avalanche highlighted each one of their stories and you developing a relationship with these people as well on the main story. It all comes together and it doesn't feel disjointed. The whole cast, from villains to your professors in Hogwarts and the other students as well as elves and goblins, I have no complaints. The only time I felt like dialogue and NPCs were a bit off was on side quests that you get in the open world. Those quests tend to steer a bit into fetch territory and be overall uninteresting, but at the same time, for Harry Potter fan, they still touch on specific lore points that are in itself a delight to see come to life in a game. I literally have no complaints overall. The dialogue is precise and the whole cast of NPCs you meet fit into the Harry Potter world. Next session is the story. Moving on into the story, and I probably already gave some background on the intro and dialogue sections, but what's showcased here is appropriate and fits with the Wizarding World theme. The game's story takes place almost 100 years before the books and movies and is very loyal and faithful to the existing lore. On one side it isn't a disaster like the Fantastic Beasts movies, and on the other side it doesn't tell such a grandiose of a tale as Harry Potter books and movies did. Still very interesting and has high stakes, never truly invoke the sense of impending doom or darkness like some of the later Harry Potter books do with the Order of the Phoenix or the Deathly Hallows books. One of the villains is well developed and their reasonings and motivations are thoroughly explained, but at the same time some of the other villains get very little screen time and it's hard to grasp their motivations for aligning themselves with the other main villain. As a whole, there is a connected plotline thread that is very interesting, which is the existence of an ancient form of magic that only a select few can tap into, and your main character happens to be one of these people. And with that comes several trials and a very interesting background story that is presented to the player in the form of the pensieve that you see in the movies and books. My general feeling on the story is that the developers brought some unique and interesting lore to the forefront of this game, but at the same time it felt like they played too safe, and the villains, despite reasonable character development and motivation, they feel lacking to some of the powerful figures we have seen in the books and movies, although it's hard to beat Voldemort or Grindelwald, for example. The most important aspect, though, which was to tell a story that is able to get the player to be fully immersed in the wizarding world, was achieved, and I feel like the quest structure of going to class in Hogwarts, meet different students, go on escapades and adventures and find out you have a unique potential, all of these resonate very much with the first books of Harry Potter. So, DLC and even a sequel can cut some of these shortcomings and develop the story to be even stronger. The next session is progression systems and enemy variety. The traditional level up screen is not present in Hogwarts Legacy. You can't raise your stats, your attributes, but you can still dynamically increase your strength as you explore, defeat enemies, complete quests, challenges and puzzles. You'll gain XP, and with each level up, you'll automatically get more HP. At some point in the game, you are introduced to the concept of talents. These are divided into Room of Requirement, Dark Arts, Core, Spells and Stealth talents. Each will customize your spells even further or your tools. Let's take for example Expelliarmus. If you spend one of your talent points on the Dark Arts tree, you can add a curse damage tick if you use Expelliarmus on an enemy. This is just an example. There are also other unique talents that are very cool on the other 3 categories, and it's up to you what you want to specialize on. Room of Requirement on the other end will enhance some of the tools you create there. You can spend points in buffing your plants, like the Chinese cabbages or venomous spatula, to deal more damage or spawn an additional plant in combat. Room of Requirement, Conjuration Charm and build potions, herbology you can use basically the Conjuration Charm to build potions and herbology stations to cook potions, get more plants, so on and so forth. Now there are timers each time you want to cook a new potion or get new plants, but you can counteract these by building more stations. You can get schematics for new stations that hold more plants or potions from vendors or by completing challenges. And speaking of challenges, this is another key progression system. As you start playing the games, the developers throw these challenges at you. During the main story or side story quests, you come across new enemies, puzzles that can only be completed once you have a certain spell unlocked, balloons in the sky that you can pop while riding in your broom, ancient magic spots that increase your ancient magic reservoir. We'll touch more on this in the combat section, but suffice it to say that there are multiple challenge tiers, and each time you complete one, you'll get rewarded with a collection item for the transmog system, or conjuration piece for your Room of Requirement. Also new traits for clothing upgrades, so you are encouraged to seek out these challenges in the open world and complete them. I can give you 1 or 2 examples of challenges. For example, on the combat side you have kill a specific enemy a number of times. On exploration side you have complete puzzles a certain amount of times, like the Merlin trials, which as you complete all the challenges you get rewarded with more inventory slots. I touched a bit on the equipment, but diving further you get introduced later in the game to gear upgrades and adding or switching traits on your gear. Hogwarts Legacy, following the trend of many AAA games, has a colored rarity loot system for your gear. Later in the game you can upgrade your legendary gear, which is orange colored of course, by using materials from beasts you breed on the Room of Requirement. You can also add traits that will increase the damage of certain spells, or decrease the damage from certain types of enemies. Traits also have a ranking system and go from 1 to 3. The higher the ranking of the trait, the more rare ingredients and materials you'll need to craft it on your equipment. To earn traits, you'll need to complete enemy camps stacked around the open world and loot a collection chest on them to get it so you can craft it on your gear. And yes, you heard well before, at some point in the story you gain access to vivariums, which let you breed beasts you catch in the open world. Basically, you can go around the open world and come across different beasts in which you can use a magic bag to store them. Then you go to your Room of Requirement and leave them on your vivarium. Vivarium have limited slots for beasts and even the species of beasts you are storing, but as you play more and more you unlock new vivariums. The idea of them is to breed beasts but also feed and pet them so you can gain their fur and upgrade your gear. Pretty cool. To finish this long-winded section, I'll touch very shortly on the enemy variety topic. Yes, as you might have heard, it's not the best, but I do think that there is enough. Now, the fact that the open world section is pretty vast and the number of checklist stuff you have to do is substantial, I can see how enemy variety might seem short, because you'll be shot into these checklist open world activities over and over again, and the variety just doesn't keep up with the amount of tasks they offer you. At some point it can seem short as it starts to get repetitive. This is one of the biggest weaknesses of Hogwarts Legacy, it's bloated open world like many other Ubisoft games. What's offered here in terms of activity is diverse, but at some point it becomes outright monotonous and repetitive. I'll come again to this topic on the role and exploration section. Going on to the combat section. Probably my favorite part of Hogwarts Legacy, the way the developers managed to mix in lore while keeping the combat extremely enjoyable is fascinating. In combat, your primary tool of course is your wand, and as I mentioned before, of course, you'll need to slowly unlock new combat spells as you do more and more main story and side story quests. It felt unreal unlocking a spell I have seen and read many times and seeing myself actually using it. What truly was mind-blowing to me is how credible and faithful they made the combat feel, starting from animations on ragdolls and enemies when you hit them with, for example, a Levioso charm. They will fluctuate in the air like you would see in the movies, and after that if you hit them with, for example, Bombarda, they'll get thrown out whilst still in the air as they are under the Levioso spell. Developers not only focused on single spell animation but also on combos, so how would an enemy ragdoll react as you keep hitting them with different spell combos, and it's extremely believable. You may ask, does it get repetitive after using them over and over in different combat encounters, and my answer would be no and yes. It will depend on how you choose to play. In combat you have access to different spell sets, you can rotate with a click of a button. You don't have a cast bar with all your 30 plus spells ready to use, unfortunately. If you are someone who doesn't like to bar switch every time, then it will get extremely repetitive as you'll be locked in to a single bar with only 4 spells. I kept switching around and doing extremely satisfying combos with all the spells available, so on my side it never truly got repetitive, and it kept being fun and engaging to step into combat encounters. I do have to say boss battles for some reason have slightly less HP than some common enemies, and I almost one-shot them. Additionally, the spells are color-coded, which means that if enemies are using Protego and have shield of a particular color, you'll need to use a spell of the same color to break the shield. Don't think it's a bad inclusion, but at the same time not a big fan of this. Overall, I found this to be one of the best combat integrations for the Wizarding World games. It always felt engaging, fun, and the ragdoll mechanics along with the existence of the unforgivable curses kept the combat extremely fast throughout my 75-hour playthrough. Suffice it to say, it's not only spells you have access to. You also have plants and potions which make combat even more interesting, like the Thunder Brew potion, which will spawn a cloud of thunder and rain around your character, doing damage and stunning enemies as you pass through them. The apparition mechanic on the dodge is also a very nice touch from the depths, and it's basically one of the best combat systems I've seen in a AAA game in years, truth be told. Role and exploration. I am absolutely shocked on how Avalanche managed to portray Hogwarts, Hogsmeade and the surrounding areas. It's so exquisitely faithful that it's unreal. The level of detail and fidelity is insane, and they did not cut any corners. If you have seen the movies or read the books on the Forbidden Forest, Hogsmeade, Hogwarts, it feels like you are inside said movies and books, and actually in these areas. They feel real, you know, not plastic or poorly made. It's clear a lot of work went into the design of these classic Wizarding World areas. I have no complaints here, truly amazing world detail, and was such a joy to explore Hogwarts and the other known Harry Potter areas. Speaking now on the open world and its activities, the developers offer a lot of activities to keep you busy and occupied, and that's when the negatives come. It's really bloated, and although the first few times you do some of these activities, it's actually charming, on the 90th time it has lost all its charm. One of the known activities is the Merlin Trials, which are puzzles in which you need to use some of your spells to complete the task. The problem is there are way too many of them, and at some point repetition will sink in and you will wish they are over. Other examples are the stargazing telescope puzzles, running after butterflies. I could keep naming them. There is enough diversity, that's not the problem. The problem is how many times they ask you to do these activities over and over again. And you can say, then don't do them, but it's not that simple. They are inherently linked with challenges and progression systems, which means if you don't do them, you won't get as powerful as you want to be. Despite this negative, often seen in AAA titles, Hogwarts Legacy at least tries to be consistent, and the fact that you can just fly around in your broom or even a hippogriff means traversal is very rewarding and just straight fascinating. In how many games can you say you fly around in a broom or a mount and just explore the world and watch the different landscapes it has to offer? Perhaps in MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV or World of Warcraft, but generally speaking, implementing flyable mounts is very rare in games, so I need to give kudos to Avalanche for not skimming on this aspect and going all out. Shame that there is no Quidditch integrated as a part of the story and overall gameplay, but I do hope they bring it in a future DLC or a sequel, as it's an integral part of school life in Hogwarts and feels like something is missing, you know? The developers do give a reason story-wise as for why Quidditch is not in the game, but it just feels off and it's not very believable, you know? Last section is music and sound effects. Speaking briefly on this, I need to give praise again to Avalanche. Familiar tunes will be here and they make discovering items and completing puzzles even more rewarding, as you are presented with one of the best tracks from the Harry Potter movies. Cutscenes and open world are brimming with this type of throwbacks, and you complement that with very well done new ones and you have a banger of a soundtrack in Hogwarts Legacy. Furthermore, sound effects are just as good, with spells, plants, potions and beasts feeling more alive and true to the movies due to how good they are. I could go on and on, but suffice it to say you won't be disappointed if you want to feel nostalgic. Hogwarts Legacy will deliver the music you want to hear in spades. For the final thoughts and score, I'm not having like a different section for positives and negatives, as I believe I already made them apparent during this video, but summarizing, combat feels meaty and punchy. You have access to dozens of known spells. Comboing spells with different tools such as plants and potions is super fun. Exploration never gets old with implementation of broom and mount flying. The attention to detail on known locations from books and movies is evident and welcome. And a fantastic story true to the Wizarding World lore with the fantastic companions to boot makes Hogwarts Legacy a must play. As you can see, most of what Hogwarts Legacy has to offer is positive, but it still has a few shortcomings by grabbing open world tropes from other AAA titles like Assassin's Creed. It tries to hide some of its flaws by offering diversity in the open world activities, but the sheer number of them will make repetition eventually sink in. For fans of Harry Potter, I say this is a buy at any price. The sheer content inside this package is insane, and the nostalgia factor is there. Even if you aren't a Harry Potter fan and you can tolerate some of the open world bloat, then I would say go for it. It's very friendly to newcomers of the IP. There are no choices in the game, so to speak, apart from a few rare occasions, but replay value is there solely by how fun combat is and how accurately the Harry Potter lore is portrayed. That's a wrap, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. This one was a bit more special to me, as I loved the books and movies when I was younger. And this game deserves every bit of success it's getting, which is sending also a big middle finger to all the woke leftists and clone world morons that wanted this game to fail and die on day one because of political reasons, which is stupid as fuck. So see you on the next one, guys, which will be basically an early thoughts on Ghostwire Tokyo by Tango Gameworks, a game I missed back when it launched and I'm playing through it now. See you on the next one, guys. Bye.